we're here this afternoon or this evening, whenever I put the video out, with our Christian. Christian has a few topics he likes to talk about. One being the worm in the, well, I suppose it's in the armour, isn't it? So, hello, Christian.
Hello, and good afternoon to everyone, or good day.
Good morning, good evening, good night. Well, good afternoon, rather, good night. Yeah, so Christian and I have actually done quite a bit on the worm in the past, haven't we, Christian? We had a hangout about it. I've made some videos and I found out a bit more information, but you don't really know what the worm is. It never says, does it?
No, not really, but I mean, my latest opinion would be that the Roman Empire was worldwide at one point, and I think as it's falling, I think what it is that the parasite had entered the Roman Empire from within, and I think that what probably started the collapse of the Roman Empire.
Oh, so it's a symbol then. So that's saying the down with the Romans.
Yeah. And basically, I mean, when you see all the paintings, the pictorials, and even the statues that depict the worm getting inside the Legionnaire's armour, it's almost like what we have today. The parasites are in power, and you look what's happening today. So there's not much difference to the Roman Empire of old to the Roman Empire of new. You know, we're seeing a collapse, whether it's humanity as a whole. You know, but it's all more or less connected, isn't it?
I just don't quite understand the worm. I mean, it's in stories. That's how we saw it, because it was on the hill, wasn't it? Do you remember? And it was about a snake. Was it a snake wrapping itself around the hill? But in there was these things.
Yeah.
Or are you depicting that once they've killed a Roman, chopped their head off, they stick a worm in there to say, that's it, he's a Roman?
Yeah,
It's a bit of a weird way of doing it, considering we now know that we're far more advanced than they're telling us. Like, we were making a bit of a joke, weren't we, that we said that Henry VIII was probably riding around in a car, or equivalent to a car, whatever they had in those days, but... You know, I'll be with you in 4 hours. I'm coming on the balloon thing. You know, it was obviously different to their telling us. So.
Yeah, I mean, when you see all the accommodated buildings of the older world, they've all more or less got what you call the fasces each side of the promenade of where the main desks are. So, you know, it's just like the old Roman Empire. You know, all these older buildings are run by government institutions. You know, there is no difference. You know, and you just put things together. It's like, is it the same bloodlines that have followed it down throughout the ages? You know, and you make the connection that what's going on today is like the old dragon has raised its head again. You know.
Yeah, but sometimes they draw it a bit like a dragon, don't they?
Yeah, this is it, you know, and...
I've got one here. I'm just taking my thing across. I mean, it is a little bit of a drawing, but there at the bottom there in the picture, there, look, it's like a dragon. That is still called the worm. Let's have a look. Let's just see what it says. Fictional descriptions of, but that one's is a dragon. Yeah,
because it's where it starts off. It starts off as a worm. You know, it's just like the
well, that one there, it says Renaissance statue. It's got someone standing behind the headless body of that person with the worm in their head. I know it's stone, but that's what they're showing. They're standing behind it.
Yeah, and that's the symbology of the day, I suppose, because in them days they used a bit symbolically, a bit more within all their drawings, the pictorials and the paintings. You know.
Hey, just 1 second, Christian. 1 second. We're just stopping this just for one moment. Hang on, I'm going to look something up. So basically, I looked up the spiritual meaning of a worm. There's a few there. It says strong emotions and keen insight. And it says, when you have an earthworm dream, it tells you that your breakthrough is close. So it's a symbol of breaking through.
Yeah.
Here you go. What does seeing a worm mean spiritually? Death and rebirth.
Yeah.
They're a sign of decay and transfer of energy to a new state or body. A new state or body. This meaning reflects that you could be living in insignificant and valueless life.
Wow.
Well, so, right, we've killed them. Stick a worm in because now they're on their transit to their new life.
Well, kind of makes sense though, doesn't it? You know, for what you just discovered under the meaning of the worm. So basically, it fits together quite nicely, doesn't it? You know, kill the body and put a new bit of life into it. You know, the death and the rebirth. Wow.
Yeah, let's go back to our worm picture. Hang on, Christian.
Did you?
Yeah, it looks like the person behind the headless person with the worm in is smiling.
Wow.
I don't know, it probably isn't. It's just its mask. But it's very strange. It's got two. It's holding two. You know those things where you hold up against you. You hold. What do you call it? It's a round thing usually to stop the arrows getting you. Those things. They hold them up. So there's two of those. Him behind, and it's like it's like he's shading himself from the worm and the person.
Yeah. Protecting himself.
Yeah. Oh, a worm's touched me.
Well, yeah,
God, imagine all the children that eat worms and all that. Oh my God.
This is what they want us to do these days, isn't it? So we're not far away from the Roman Empire, are we?
No, or everything goes back to that sodding Roman Empire.
Yeah, and the hand, the hand of tyranny, basically, isn't it? Because that's apparently how they're supposed to have ruled. That they ruled by the wars and the violence that they gave everyone. So we have to believe.
So we're just asking them. We've been talking a few minutes. So you told us a bit of insight into this worm thing. But what's your real thoughts then, Christian?
Well, like I said, I mean, the art of war, the best art of war is to overthrow a society or a country from within, you know, and that's what was one of my latest beliefs, that the Roman Empire was hijacked from within. We know it fell to the Visigoths and the Goths.
Oh, do you think they're saying that a certain emperor was a worm?
Quite possibly, you know, they were given a poison chalice that corrupted the empire, and that's what fell.
Torso. They're not showing his bottom or his legs or his head. They're just showing a bit of torso.
Yeah, which is very strange. Yeah, to me, that's what it depicts. It's more or less.
Don't come near us. Do you think they did all that when we've got the plague and things like that?
Yeah, this is what I was saying to you earlier about how did they defeat the bastions and the large fortresses. Well, they just poisoned the water supply by throwing poisoned meat into the water that supplied the fortress or the bastion with water supply. That's one of the easiest way to overthrow anybody without actually firing an arrow or bullet or whatever, or cannonball, you know. And that's quite obvious of what they do to us today, you know. I mean, we know that there's a war going on.
It's a locust mystery, whatever that is. It's all about the Renaissance. So when's that, the 1700s?
Yeah, I think so, 1700s.
That just makes such sense, because I think that's where, you know, everybody's putting it down to the Victorians, but I've just got this feeling that it's the ones before that are these big Tartarians with the big houses. But then I thought, well, maybe the houses are a lot older than we think they are. Maybe the big houses, you know, the big houses you see in, you know, New York and London and all that, maybe they're Roman.
Well, this is one of my thoughts. I mean, there's so many of these mansions that have been left to rot or just abandoned, and they are beautiful buildings, you know, and you think, why? But yeah, you're right. In some cases, they're
the Lambton worm looks like a dragon. That's the one. It's the Lambton worm, because I can just see a picture of it over here. Wikipedia.
Yeah, and that goes back way back, doesn't it? The Lambton worm goes way back, probably to the time of the Vikings, I think, or even maybe just before. You know, the Norsemen, the Viking conquistors, when they were doing all the raiding in the early centuries.
Well, we've only got a little bit of it, and it is something we still don't know what it is. Maybe people can leave their comments to what they think the worm is, what it's all about. It's been one of your little babies, hasn't it? You just want to find information about it, but you haven't managed to find that much, have you?
Well, no. if you take in consideration with what's gone on in recent times, where with the jibs and what they're pumping into people, it's like they're pumping worms into people today. Something that shouldn't be in your body. So there doesn't seem to be much difference between then and now. It's in comparison, it's more or less the same sort of thing. They're doing it by stealth. First they did one thing, then they did another thing, then it became compulsory. So it's the same thing. It's just history repeating itself by the looks of things.
Yeah, do you think that's enough now? Because we've got this ongoing thing with what the worm is.
Yeah.
We don't quite know what it is, but it's a symbol of something.
Yeah, it definitely is. That's beyond any measure.
Okay, then 1 second. We'll just stop for a moment and we're going to get the next subject up. So you must have seen my video the other day about those beams of light coming up. I mean, I find some of them a bit weird that they're all over housing estates. I'm going to show you one more. Here we go. So there's another picture of these beams. They're red and yellow, basically. That's microwave colour. But carry on, Christian.
Yeah, these beams that are coming from these older buildings, they must have been activational points that were used for free energy in older times.
Well, I haven't put my video up, but the other day I put the video out about this woman that saw the beam coming out of the church. It's not a light beam, it's quite a dark beam. And then I moved on because I wasn't sure about some of the things you see in the sky and the fact that we can see these pillars. And I'm wondering whether it's cold. I think there's snow on the ground, I'm not sure, but when it gets cold we can see these frequencies. Maybe that's what they're all the frequencies we can see.
Yeah, I think it has something to do with the past. Like I just said about the churches, or some of these bigger churches that were called cathodes, which we now call cathedrals. They were active points that used free energy. When you look at the decor on the spires, on all of them, it's just overbearing. It's too much.
But these beams of light are just coming out of the ground, so it didn't need a building to do it.
Yeah.
But when you look at how it's all placed, how those beams go up, and then you think of HARP and how they make those things, and they're in, and then if you've ever seen any pictures of HARP working, it looks like that.
Yeah, it's exactly the same type of beam, isn't it? When you look at the videos from Malaysia and Indonesia, where these two temples are still more or less active, even the birds swirl around these beams, because there must be something of a healing quality to them for the birds to be getting so close to them and swirling around.
Well, maybe they feel the electricity, because we now know. I mean, that was just crazy when I learnt about birds. Birds will go and sit on electrical things and they need to sit because they need to, like, they can only fly for so long. It's not just flying. They need something from the air and from the structures. It regenerates them, and that's why a bird doesn't move sometimes. Like when it's doing, you think, oh, that poor little bird, and it can't move because it's knackered. It's got no more energy. It needs to, what do you call it, charge up. And the birds are using electricity to do it.
It's quite possible.
And that's how they made aeroplanes, because a guy watched the birds.
Yeah. It's like a lot of people don't know that bees don't actually fly. They
hover. Well, maybe birds don't fly.
Whatever process is, they definitely use the environment.
It's something else they're doing, and we call it flying. I don't know.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Those birds can probably see all these things that we see. Oh, I'm staying away from that town. Look at all those beams in there.
I mean, so some of the larger birds, they use the updraft and downdraft, which means they can stay up there indefinitely, just using the updraft and downdraft of the Earth. Where there's the electromagnetic field involved, it's quite possible, that creates the updrafts, where they just float around without much use of their wings.
Do you know what's a bit strange about beams, though? They can't be light, because you don't see light. You only see light when it hits something.
Yeah, when it reflects off something.
Yeah, and these are going straight up out of the ground, so they're not light.
No, visually they appear something I don't know, sometimes darker, you know.
But in the olden days, maybe they knew what all this was about.
Yeah. I'd say it's all the old technology. It's still becoming active again in certain areas because of what's happening to our climate, the way they're abusing our climate. With everything they're doing with the geoengineering programs, it's probably reactivating some of these places. That's why I had a guess at that.
I was thinking they built it the other day. I thought when I saw them and it was around so many towns, I thought, God, they're just building it into the town. Because don't forget, they just want to control us. That's it. They don't care about us. We're pigs, sheep, and cows. They don't care. They don't care what we eat, what we breathe, what we drink. They don't care. And if they can stick a pill in you or whatever medication to kill you or do, they're just testing it out on you. Let's just make it a bit stronger, see if they survive. They're just trying to find a way to do these. Oh, that's what I think.
Well, my own opinion is that a lot more truth is ever since the release of the internet, people have become to inform themselves, to re-educate themselves of the past and the truer past that we've had. You know, Tartaria just being one of the instances, and obviously some of the other empires that never really got spoken about.
But were they empires, though? Because at the same time you've got the British Empire, they're supposed to be the Ottoman Empire. But then we were in charge of the Ottoman Empire. So it was part of it. So how does that work with all these empires? But they're not, they're all, maybe it's just a lie. They make empires all across the world, but they're all one thing.
Yeah, I think so. It's just a change of hands or a change of ruler.
But this is why I worked out when Tartaria ended, because the Ottoman Empire ended in 1925. So it was there. Everything, that Tartaria ended then, only that long ago, not thousands of years ago, just then. And that was all to do with the Queen, and then, you know, with corporations, and she was crowned, and she made us into a corporation, and so forth. It's all a bit bizarre, really.
Yeah, insincerity, isn't it?
In sincerity. Not in all sincerity.
No, the words should have been spoken differently. That's for sure. You know.
I'm just telling you, I'm the Wicked Witch of the East. Really?
As sad as the case, that's what it may be. You know, because it seems that these royals worldwide have got a law unto themselves, and if they're connected to everything else that's going on right now, which I probably think that's exactly what it is, that they are the old bloodlines.
Do you know what I wish they'd done, though? I really wish they'd told us the truth about history and told us that basically, I'm just going to put another picture of beams on because people like seeing things move across the screen. It's been shown they didn't tell us the truth that the royal family are all the Romans. Nobody would want them in.
Well, this is it, but they don't go by their true name, do they? You know, their name, apparently at the moment, where they changed it for World War II because they didn't want anybody to know that they were the Saxe-Coburg, and then you go back further, they were Wettins, you know, and you go back further, and you find out that they are actually the old bloodlines, you know.
You know, if everybody understood, I mean, I tried to explain, yeah, they're all Roman emperors, even Henry VIII was, and my mum thinks I'm mad, but they are all Romans. You know, what you find is that they are kings in this country, and they were kings in Europe at the same time. They were Roman emperors. So was Hitler. That's just, I don't know how you start the war off as a goodie, but there are times when he's sitting outside that train with those papers, and I just think, look, there's an actor learning his lines. There isn't a man trying to control the world because he was running around on a train, which seems to me that they could have killed him any time they wanted.
Well, yeah, this is a really
Look,
good point.
there's Hitler's train, bomb it!
Yeah, and yet they bombed so many other trains, didn't they?
Well, look, London got destroyed, but they could never get Hitler on his train. He was out there in the open.
But then again, a lot of people now say that Hitler was part of what the Roman Empire is, and it runs both sides. Yeah, it controls both sides. For how long this has gone on, we can only surmise. Perhaps at the fall of the Tartarian Empire, the Romans took over again, and it's been going on like that for 500 years. I mean, Copernicus, that's a Roman name. Medici, Orsini, all these families that run the world, you know, they're more or less of their old Roman world. So
Yeah, but they never.
Basically.
What it is they're pretending like they left, but they didn't. We can't even get this bit. I told you it was watching a video. We've still got the beam pictures up, so we'll find another picture in a minute. But we were watching. I was watching this video. It was. I think it was on. Oh God, I can't remember. I'm sorry. My mind's gone a bit of a blur today now on that one. Where what's his name? I can't remember what his name is now. Anyway, let's carry on. He did a video where he's talking to this man, and the man says, Christianity started in England. He said the first person to be crucified was in England. And you're like, what? So all roads don't go to Rome. They come to England, which is kind of what's happening because Charles is head of it all.
Well, yeah, there's plenty of pictorials and paintings of people wearing Victorian clothing, and you think, well, what period was the Victorian period then? We're told it's the rule of Queen Victoria, but when you establish that you've got paintings and pictorials where people are wearing Victorian clothing, that implies the Victorian period.
Yeah, I think it was the King George, the one before. That's the one. You know, if it's not the Romans who made the big buildings that we look at, and they've been cladded with stone and whatever, and some of them have been destroyed, but some of them are still there in New York and London and other places all around the world. If the Romans didn't do it, then they did it. I just feel it was them, the ones before. They were the ones with the money. They were the ones that did everything, made the train tracks. So that could be 100 to 200 years earlier than they're saying at least. And they probably had it anyway because once you've got it, if you're making train tracks, you've got it.
Yeah.
Not getting it, you've got it. I don't know, it's all bizarre.
Well, yeah, it's crazy to think that they were still crucifying people in the Victorian times. But then again, people assume that Jesus... Well, yeah.
Oh.
I mean, people think that Jesus and the other two people that were crucified, you know, probably think that they were the only people ever crucified in the world. But, you know, you've got things like Spartacus, and this entire army was crucified all the way to Rome. So, you know, it's one of the things that they did. They decimated and annihilated any opposition. And any, you know, and again, it's the same thing that we're facing today. If you're not following the narrative and you're not compliant, you're not part of the game.
Yeah, we're not allowed to be individuals, and we're not allowed to have a say. YouTube are doing that to us. They've got no right to do that. Yes, it is their platform. Yes, you know, people, you can earn money from them and stuff like that. But they shouldn't be so into the Roman rule. What right have they got to? So the only thing that's right is what YouTube says. They're not. What I mean is they should be non-biased. But they're not. They're biased.
Well, what's been done here is like they're only allowing a one-way conversation. You know, it's like
oh God, they said flat Earth. Oh, we must delete, block. We must do this to them because they mention those words.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what's going on in the world right now, even in the UK, we were once known as Great Britain, and then we became UK. Well, we were known as the United Kingdom. United Kingdom, and now it's just the UK. Yeah, so you begin to realise that they're changing stuff to suit agendas. You know, it's been going on for a very long time, and God knows what we're going to be facing in the future, for even us or the kids of the future. I mean, I'm not all for technology, but I'm not against it either. You know.
Yeah, we'd just like to know what we're facing, really.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was on the bus the other day, and there were so many of these 16-year-olds, and every 16-year-old was more or less using their phone to get on the bus and pay to get on the bus with, but yet their brains were more or less non-existent. You know, they're all jammed at the front of the bus, and the driver's doing this. Can you get upstairs? Can you get to the back of the bus? And then all the kids went upstairs to the bus, and they all started standing upstairs. So the driver had to get out again and tell them not to stand upstairs and whatnot. Yet there were still seats downstairs, and I'm thinking, these kids are dumb. You know, why do they have to jam pack the front of the bus? You know, it's just mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling.
Mind you, I suppose in the old days there would have been a conductor on there and he would have done it all.
Yeah, Yeah, it's not the driver's job to conduct the way people behave, and but because there were so many of these youngsters, more or less, the situation got out of control, and there were so many of them that eventually the driver just had to shut the doors and drive off because I think he had enough, you know.
I know you weren't very happy when you came home from there. We were supposed to have our hangout on that day, and you weren't very happy about it. So yeah. What picture should I put up? Because I've got a Union Jack now. I have to say that to me, the Union Jack, nearly about 90% of the flags are from this flag. Crosses, crisscrosses, lines, down, cross.
The rulers.
And you've got the triangles. And you'll notice that a lot of flags have these triangles in them.
Yeah, it's incorporated in many other countries' flags.
Yes, all of it.
It's part of the same system.
You can even work out where they're living because there's a crisscross, and Jamaica have a crisscross, and they're on the crisscross, and so the land has to match into roughly the Union Jack.
Yeah.
It's like a star.
Well, basically, that's what it represents, isn't it? The 8-sided star. And that's why they wear it. But I mean, in recent times, that the uniform people, they wear the Union Jack, but it's been blacked out, and to me, that's treason towards the country. So whatever's going on,
is that the new flag since we broke away from Europe?
Yeah.
Let's show the black one. Yeah, it's a bit weird. Black. There you go. You can buy a black Union Jack. It's a bit weird.
Dressed like Darth Vader.
Flag of the United Kingdom. Wikipedia have got it. Wikipedia is showing flag of the United Kingdom, black. What does that mean then?
Say that again.
It says Wikipedia file flag of the United Kingdom.
And it's darkened out.
It's black.
Oh wow.
Let's just have a look. One second. I was going to turn this off just for a second to get there. Yeah, so it's on Wikipedia.
That's very strange, isn't it?
Why would they be showing that then?
Well, obviously something's changed, but nobody's been informed what the changes are. That's what it appears to me.
Size, original file. We don't want all that. Oh, there isn't that much. Oh, here we go. Flag of the United Kingdom, black and white variant. Date 2019. Flag of the United Kingdom, SVW. Author Spinzelays. This work, created by the United Kingdom government, is in the public domain. This is because it's one of the following. It says a photograph, taken before the 1st of June 1957, was published prior to 1973, and it goes, what the hell's that got to do with it?
Precisely.
It's an artistic work that a photograph or engraving or a painting prior to 1973. It carries on. HMSO has declared that the entry of the Crown copyrights applies worldwide. Also copyright in Dutch, English, Spanish, etc., etc. Origin, 100 countries. What is all that about? It's before 1928. This work is in the public domain in the United States because it was published before 1928. Doesn't really say anything, does it?
All the countries that used to be connected to the British Empire, which became the Commonwealth, they probably still are today, connected in that way. But we're not being told of anything at top level, are we? How everything is working these days. But we know there's definitely been a change, that's for sure.
Wow. Anyway, I saw that after we started breaking up from the European Union, to be honest. The black flags were coming out.
Well, that's obviously something to do with the royals themselves, whether it's a significance of the Queen passing away, and they're saying, everybody that's connected to the courts, or the courts and judicial systems have to be in mourning of the Queen.
What I see, Christian, is you can't get away from it because it rules you. It's something to do with this little country where, it's been made to look like we're an insignificant little dot on a map. We're actually bigger than they show us we are, so they make us smaller. I don't know why. And everything's happening here, including maritime law.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, we're going to stop for a second. We're going to talk a little bit about immigration now, but it is very strange because don't forget we've got this lying history, even about the orphan trains, but about, and that seemed when I looked things up that the immigrants moved into North America, and then the ones that were there, they went to more southern, well, they were in the Southern America, which is kind of that map they show us, don't they, where they don't draw in the top part of America, and that's because all the immigrants were in there, and it's almost the same as what's happening now.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you look at what's going on in Ireland and Wales, I mean, Wales has been inundated with this migrant crisis as well, but it's here as well. And of recent times, I've found out that the government has contracted the golf courses, which is 530 golf courses, they're hotels, you know, to fill them up with migrants. So, you know,
Yeah, there's a lot of hotels in Newbury with immigrants in it. The place I work at doesn't have any in at all, but there's a what is it? It's not a Holiday Inn. It's a you know, what's the ones they advertise a lot on the television that aren't very expensive? Oh, for God's sake, Premier Inn, those kind of things.
Premier Inn.
They're in, and the other one, there's another one that's just like it. Well, in Newbury, there's one of each, and they've both got immigrants in them.
Wow. Well, I mean, even in small places like where I
and
went
then
to
we've
see
seen a
family
whole
relatives.
town up north with all those empty houses they could put them in.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of
How
the
can
day,
you
it's
have
not.
half a town empty with nobody living in it, where they could put a lot of the people and put them in hotels because there isn't enough houses, when they're destroying things that they could reuse as houses for them?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they're all like young men. They're not like kids or women or old people. They're just young men. Everywhere that I've gone to see.
I mean, that's probably
it's
how I
just young
got
men.
here with my family. I told you, my dad's family is my dad was German, and his dad was German and his mum was French. They were German. They were Jewish as well, and there's a bit of Scottish. And my mum's Welsh, but she always thought that they always came from Wales, but they didn't. I told you, one of her relatives crowned a king in Scotland in the 1300s, and then after that, an archbishop always crowned the king. And he was very important. I mean, you can't get almost more royal than that, can you? Apart from being the royal family, if you're going to crown the king. So one of our relatives crowned the king. So but then he went off to do some whatever it was, and it looks like he was either. It looks more like he was a. Oh, what do you call them with the crosses on? The knights?
Knights Templar?
That's it. My brain's aloft today. It's almost as if he was one of them, or he was on those, you know, like Richard III did them. It went crusades. He was in France doing stuff and fighting. But my family started there and then went to Wales. So we were actually Scottish, went to Wales. But that's just crazy. So I'm not English myself, so I'm an immigrant.
Well, yeah, I mean.
Well, I was born here, but my parents are immigrants.
I think throughout the ages, I mean, we have travelled and we've been travelled or we've been trafficked,
But
if
if
you
you
like.
ask anybody about where they come from, they will always tell you, oh, well, I've got a Greek granddad, an American auntie, a French uncle. You know, everybody's got foreign blood in them.
Yeah.
And this is how you would do it, because you say all these people are migrating, in 2 or 3 generations' time, they've probably married the people of the country. They could be white, black, pink, blue, and then they've integrated, and then it moves on like that all the time. You're just always, it's like you're immigrating the whole time, isn't it? Because all the people mixing, the different bloodlines, everything, being an immigrant.
Yeah, but I mean, what's going on right now is more or less being done by the hidden hand. So many Irish and Welsh people don't know what's going on in their countries, but all they know is they're being inundated with all these young men. You know, it's almost like, why just young men?
Yeah, if you go to Mickey's Park, you don't hear anybody speaking English.
No.
They're all speaking different languages, like they're Indians, or they've come from those areas. Maybe not Indians, maybe they're Pakistanis, whatever. They come from that area. And then you've got the Middle Eastern ones that are coming. They're coming from these countries, aren't they?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
I thought it was a problem with Ukraine, not out there.
This is what I'm saying. Whatever's going on is being done by the hidden hand, and it's not being done.
But we know what it is because that Katie person did it. Do you remember? I mean, I've seen it before as well, where they actually advertise on the internet. They say, "Come to England, you will get a house, education, this, that, whatever it is, and this is and money." And that's another, because don't forget, they think that a lot of them come. They think, "Hey, I can send I can live off half the money, and send half the money home, and they'll be rich."
Well, yeah, some of the ones that have turned up in Ireland, apparently they were being paid 80,000 euros just to go over there. And you think, why? You know, and apparently they've had an influx of around about 2 million. So, and the Irish population is only 5 million. So you think, are they trying to breed the Irish out? You know, it's like an attack, if you like, on populations. And here, even
well, I think that's always been happening because, you know, with the potato famine, about 3/4 of Ireland moved to America.
Yeah.
How the hell does that happen? And then you think, even the whole story about that looks weird. So this fog came in, everything was fine, and the fog came in and stopped at a certain height, but it got the top of the crops. So the top of the crops died. And that's how they lost all their potatoes.
Well, so they say, but...
Yeah, that's so they say. Yeah, so they say, because we know that they lie.
I think it had something to do with the redcoats and supplying the army for the European wars at the time.
I'm almost, you know, I was talking to you just before we came on about the fact that Mark Boland was David Van Day. And it's like, what the hell is going on, everybody? Everybody is somebody else. You know, I've done Michael Fox. Oh, that really annoyed me because he's Tom Cruise. He's Nicole Kidman's, what is he called? Keith Urban. He's Owen Wilson, and there'll be more of them. There's another one that looks just like him that didn't get the part for Back to the Future.
It's amazing how many of them
and that's
look
him
like
as well. So they refused. They said that actor didn't get it, and they gave it to Michael Fox. But the other actor is Michael Fox as well.
Yeah.
They're all versions of each other.
It's amazing how many of them look like each other, how they resemble each other. You know, it's almost like they're
too close to. They look like they're just a version of each other. It's almost as if let's breed 50 clones who are almost identical, and they're going to be the actors, so they're going to get different names, but they're going to look alike. I don't see that happening either. But this is what I reckon. What it is I saw this video about a year ago where this guy was doing the news in America. He was just talking about it on a program, and he said, well, I went in and they filmed me for 10 minutes, and they had my mannerisms, my voice, everything. And then I said to Mickey, come on, Mickey, they just rent the face. They're renting the actor's face. It's all composite. They make everything before we see it. Nothing is live. You know, they say it's live. It isn't. It's all made for us weeks in advance, just like the film.
That's why I say I'm not all for technology, but I'm not against it. And a lot of people are beginning to realise now that like this 5G technology is not actually being used for us; it's being used with us and against us.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering whether those beams were. We're living in it.
Mm-hmm.
But don't forget, they lie about everything. So God, I mean, sometimes I was thinking, well, if I think there's interterrestrials, not extraterrestrials, and if there is more land, maybe they're taking them from there or putting them there.
There's got to be something like that, because when you look at the orphan
Take
trains
a child, they would never know. Oh, you've come to this. You know, they won't know it's a new land and all that. A little child with it, a baby.
No, and this is where you get the resets and why there's so many mysteries in our histories.
We're just in the Union Jack pod. There's obviously loads of us. There's loads of these things with us in it. But I don't quite understand why we're here and what it is, what we're living in. You know, okay, the sun might not be very far away. I don't think we're moving, and the whole thing like that. But you can only go so far up. I want to know what's around that, whatever the firmament. I want to know what's around that. We just don't know. We're no further on than we've been looking since 2016-17. And all these things, you know, that's what sometimes, you know, they knew we were waking up, and they've got to put us back to sleep, haven't they? And then, you know, all our life is a fantasy, isn't it? You know, I lost my dad a few months ago. We don't talk about these things enough. And so we're living in a fantasy, you know. Oh, the film star, oh, the car, the holiday, the house, oh, money, money, money. And it goes on and on. That's the fantasy.
Yeah.
Mm. Should we find another picture? Do you want to do any more on immigration?
No, I think we've covered most of it, really. I
But
mean,
it is
apart from
strange, because, you know, you're Scottish, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you've emigrated here.
Yeah, basically.
Mm.
Over the border.
Yeah, you have. Well over the border, Christian. No, 1 second. We'll find another picture. So, we're going to look up a bit about, well, just talk about Tartaria, but I just put it on so obviously you're looking at something. And it says that basically it's a historical name for Central Asia and Siberia. Siberia's in there now. It's about a hidden past, mud floods. That's what it says. And then it says Tartari or Tartari was a blanket term used in Western European literature. It's all about Asia and they're bounded by the Caspian Sea, the Ural Mountains, the Pacific Ocean and the northern borders of China, India and Persia. And at a time when this region was largely known to the European geographers. That's Tartari. But they don't call, we say Tartarian all the time, or Tartaria.
Or Tartary. Yeah, Tartaria.
Well, it's boggled me, that thing, and we just talked about that basically the last really big lot were the ones that made the train tracks. Maybe they were the ones that made the big buildings, and we're talking maybe about like you said, 1700s. But even though they said it originated in Russia and all that, well, they don't say Russia, actually, they just say Central Asia, but it's Russia. Everybody has the same buildings.
Yeah.
And they're all different, you know, like, in the buildings, you'll have ones that look Middle Eastern, ones that look like they come from here, ones that look like but we've all got them.
You know, I've got to the point with my mind and my opinion and the way I feel about it now is that because of the stuff that I've come across. I mean, only in recent years I found out about the concrete kilns. Have you heard about the concrete kilns?
Concrete kilns.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if all these older buildings, right, are red brick buildings, right, and at one point the concrete kilns came into being, and I think that what's happened is a lot of these old Tartarian buildings were covered in concrete, yeah, to make them look like they're solid stone. And I'm wondering,
that's the problem. We all thought they were stone buildings, and now we realise the buildings have been cladded with stone tiles.
Yeah. Yeah, and
that doesn't mean they're not old, those buildings. It just means those. So, you know, we said the Victorians are obviously probably the ones that are older, but the ones that they call those are the ruddy Victorians that did it.
Yeah.
So after Victoria, those are the ruddy ones that tried to change a lot of our history, or pretended the building was built then and stuck the tiles on them. They were from before. But they don't want us to know this, do they? This is why there is no ends, no beginnings, and you just stumble across things or people see things. Because they're not telling us the truth. You know, like I told you, I just worked out one day that what I believe is churches were small, like the one that's along the A4 here. They were little chapels, but underneath there'll be a crypt where the people was buried. And over the time, they built the churches on and made them much bigger and the whole thing. And then for some reason, they stopped putting people in the crypts and they buried them on top of the land.
Yeah.
I don't understand all that either. Unless what it is they don't want you going down in the crypts ever, because the ones down there were huge.
Well, I was quite surprised that when I went to see one...
I mean, the coffins were huge. You know, they're great big tomb things.
Yeah. In one of the churches I went to, they wanted to charge me. I'm going, well, hang on, you're a church, aren't you? What, are you a cinema or you know, a venue? You know, this is a church. You know, a church, not a place of, you know, it's a place of worship. It's not something that you should pay to go and see. You know, it's there for all to see, isn't it?
So the churches are in on it as well.
It's got to be, isn't it?
Yeah, they just don't want to change their mind. They're going to say it's Asia and all that. And it is in there because you can see it in the old maps. Well, that's if those old maps are real. Every time I do a hangout or a video, there's always got to be a noisy car, a noisy helicopter, noisy bikes. quite quiet here, and then suddenly. No.
Well, funny enough, I've shut my window because he would have probably heard all the barking dogs outside. I don't know, but I don't know what's the matter with them. But there must be at least 4 or 5 of these dogs, and they just go on one for I don't know half an hour. And that's why I shut the window.
Oh, sorry. I know it's annoying when other people's noise affects you. This one here says that the original word of Tartaria is from medieval Latin Tartarus, from Persian Tartar, used in the 13th century, said to be ultimately from Tartar, the name of the Mongols for themselves.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably not the truth at all, because they lie about everything. Yeah, we just want the truth, don't we, Christian? We're always looking for the truth because we know we haven't found it all. We found bits and pieces of things. I mean, I was really shocked when I did the Union Jack. Never did I think the Union Jack was the flag for the world, and that was showing you that they still were in charge of all the countries, because all those countries would have changed their flags by now if they were separate countries. And they're all part of the Union Jack. Oh my God, there comes a plane now. I'm going to shut the window more. And then you've got, it's just crazy. And they've got the star map, and it's all like, everything is just so different to what they've told us. Even that because the Roman Empire's still here. Whatever it is, whatever ruled us before, it's still here. We've got nothing new. There wasn't new parties, new this, new. It's the same thing, and it's been running this place like it is now, hundreds of years ago. That's what I think.
Yeah. Not much change at all, is there?
Not really, no.
When you consider the stuff that they're putting on us right now, with everything else that's going on, it's crazy times. I think crazy times, but it's like the truth is being revealed to us in part here, there, and everywhere, while they're still trying to deceive us at the same time.
Look at this, Wikipedia. This is Tartary, not to be confused with the spirit of Tartary or Tarston, Tartary, Latin Tartaria, French Tartarie, and it says it on them. They just like sticking these things in. It just gets more complicated, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, Sam got a present from someone last year. I think it was last year or early this year, and it's a map of Northamptonshire, and it's got a lot more village names and little smaller town names around it that don't exist anymore. But seeing is believing that these places, they're not on the map today. So
we saw one the other day. It's not that the place has really changed. It's just that we were with my mum, and my mum was like, "Oh, I didn't know that. Eastbourne was called East of the Bourne." And it was like Eastbourne. They were separate words. And over time that word's come together and it's become Eastbourne. East of that bourne. It's land. Like Hungerford is because hunger was round a ford and became Hungerford. And there was a ford of water there. And I lived in Inkpen. That's all to do with sheep.
Wow.
You don't even know that what things mean in the names of the towns that we live. So when you've got something like, I can't think of anything with Bourne on it now, but anything with Bourne on the Boune. Oh, there's Bournemouth. There you are, Bourne of the Mouth, Bourne of the Mouth. So that land is at the mouth of a river or something. Do you see what I mean? But you don't realise how much history is in the name. And it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same with Tartaria, isn't it? Because I'm not quite sure what it all means because we've only got bits of it. But it's all crazy. But I always say Tartaria on everything, and it could be hundreds of years ago because it's history we don't really know the truth of. But they did write things down because I told you my mum's got a document that was done 1856, which explains that her relative in the 1300s crowned the King of Scotland.
Yeah.
So they did keep records.
Yeah.
They do know the truth.
That's why they keep the truth from the masses. I mean, we've watched some of the really old films, and some of the films I've watched, I'm thinking, when you see New York in its heyday, around about 1900, and you see millions, well, it looks like millions of people all the way down Broadway and all the other avenues, you know, all the roads are just chock-a-block with people, more so then than what it is today.
Yeah,
you know,
there's millions of people.
Yeah, and they're telling us we're overpopulated today, but you know, and it's not just New York.
Well,
it's many other cities.
my son was telling me the other day, my eldest son, that, you know, basically the population's going down.
Yeah, and it's in
We've got here, look, history of New York, 1898 to 1945. You're looking at it, obviously it will have changed a bit, but there's great big buildings in there. So if that was 1898, it wasn't just built then. It's obviously hundreds of years old. There's one, New York in the early 1900s. We're looking at a building here, and that looks Roman.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying about Tartaria. Did they cover all the Tartaria, or not all the Tartarian buildings, but most of them? They cover them with concrete and to make them look Romanesque, you know, or Romano-Greco.
But why would they do that?
Well, it confuses people, doesn't it? But why all the concrete kilns? What was the concrete
you know,
for?
when you were talking about concrete, we had concrete ships, concrete galleons, which is crazy. But, you know, we always associate... See that building there? I mean, these could be... Well, sorry, 1 second. These could be Roman. And they said they were built in the 1800s. Sorry, what were you talking about?
Well, Tartaria and the concrete kilns.
Oh, yeah, those. The concrete. We assume that concrete is quite a modern thing.
It's not, though. The Romans themselves originally used concrete. You know,
no,
so
I'm saying in your mind, though, when you see concrete, you think, oh, that's not very old then. But we're not. It can be much older than you think it is.
But I think
and that's the really strange thing, because the past, even with these buildings, they are so advanced for their age, but they're also old at the same time now. Now they're old, but they're so advanced. Like, they've built this building, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's probably about 15 stories high. How did they do that all that time ago?
Yeah, this is it. These buildings were absolutely massive.
And so precise.
And you can't say they were Victorian.
And all of them do. Even in all the buildings in the streets, they just look at this place. Look at that. So this is probably 200 years ago. There they are with all their ships. They were having a life just like us.
Yeah,
then.
And a lot of these buildings were built with the technology that they were using at the time, whether it's free energy, free ether energy. I mean, one of my friends, Dave Perkins, he went on many ventures to Europe. Holland mainly was one of them. But yeah, just to photograph and video the evidence of all these older buildings that still exist there, and they've still got all the connective stuff to them that. There must have been some type of energy system that they used that they don't want people to know about.
Christian, 1 second. Ellie. Sorry, that was my Mickey calling me, but anyway, I'll speak to him in a minute. Yeah, there's a building there, absolutely amazing. How did they get all those windows up there, the glass? It's going to tell you that they had little cranes and all that. It's just rubbish. They would have had, you know, look what it takes to make buildings today. It would have been the same then. I know, they just magic them up. Even the bridges, some of those metal bridges, they built so long ago. Where did they get? It's just amazing.
Yeah.
But again, we can't answer any of the stuff we've talked about today. These are some of the topics that Christian likes to cover and likes to think about, and we talk about, don't we, Christian?
Well, yeah, because I'm so confused about when, you know, we know that we're still in the Roman Empire in ways that we can't really formulate as in prove that we're still in the Roman Empire. But we know that most of the people that were in power are normally flying the eagle, and we know now that Putin's flying the eagle. So, you know, is he the head of state or whatever that's going on?
A double eagle means you're an emperor. And the thing is, you know, people, when I put it to say someone like my mum, and, you know, they're going to go, oh, dear, I go, Mum, they don't, what? So you become king of a country, and the first thing you do is you put double eagles on it. I'm telling you, Mum, they're emperors. You don't just put a double eagle on there for nothing, do you? Oh, let's just put, I'll tell you what, Christian, I'm going to make a friendship flag with us, and I'm going to put double eagles on it. So yes, and it's a bit like even with Hitler, they've lied about all that, or maybe what it is in one country he's the baddie, in another he's this, and that's how they do it.
Yeah.
Well, I know what
surprised.
I'd like. I'd like them to push off. I'd like them to go. I tell you what, my favourite thing would be to put them all in the rockets and send them off.
Yeah. To Pluto or even further out.
Yeah,
if
send them
that
to the
exists.
moon. Yeah, go for it. Let's send them all
Yeah.
to the moon.
I don't think they can go there either.
Because what it does is, we've got time now. We're a bit older. We've got time to look. And it makes you think about these things. I don't know if I think a lot of the people that come to the channel think about these things. Maybe a lot of people don't think about these things. That's why we mention them, to bring them back up in people's minds as well. I mean, this is New York. London's the same. So is Rome. So is what's in Russia? What's that one? Oh, that was amazing in Russia, isn't it? The capital of Russia.
Moscow.
That's it. Sorry, I told you I'm a bit tired today. Moscow. But I've really, really enjoyed this talk, Christian. You know that we like talking. We could talk for a lot longer, but I've got to go.
It's really funny and crazy at the same time that many of us who try and do the research and do the questioning to try and look for the answers, that when it comes down to real reasoning, that we're just looking for the truth, and we're getting called conspiracy nutcases, when in fact what a conspirator is someone who conspires to create an agenda or a plan to go against something. Well, we none of us do this. We do it openly and honestly, and just ask questions.
Yeah, I suppose we are against it because we know it's a lie. So that's why they're calling us that. We don't see ourselves as that. We just want to know the truth. But that's why they call us that. That's why YouTube is so brutal to me. They're brutal.
Yeah. Well, this is it, isn't it? The truth is always the most important thing.
I don't have a problem with BitChute, Rumble or Odyssey. Never ever do I get any problems. But, Rumble and Odyssey are linked to YouTube, so they're probably the same thing. For the same, same people own them because they're linked to them. When you put a video on Odyssey or on Rumble, you can link it with YouTube. My Odyssey is linked to YouTube because I didn't know what I was doing then. But Rumble isn't. Rumble's a separate channel because I don't want everything to be linked. Because, if YouTube delete me, everything I suppose the videos will stay, but I just wanted to be separate.
Yeah, well, what I have noticed over the past, especially the last 3 years, that anything that's news, that's current, that's true, is the ones that gets the 404, or gets the block, the censorship, anything that's current.
Yeah, and the thing is, what they do to me? What they do is they decide to copyright something, and then when you go to say you want to appeal it, the first thing it says is this your song? Well, it isn't, so you can't appeal it because it's not your song. So they've got that one covered. And then what they do is they put it like that. Either you keep the video as it is and it goes out copyrighted and then hardly anybody sees it, or when they do that, it annoys me because it's hours more work, but I'll change it. But they do that on purpose so that you're not talking.
Yeah.
That's how they do it. They just, once they restrict that video, hardly anybody's going to see it. And they keep restricting me enough as it is. When me and Nikki did that one where Freddie Mercury was not singing to the crowd, Mickey saw it and said, "Look at this one." And as he turns out to the crowd, it's all a cartoon. YouTube demonetized me.
Yeah.
And they said I had nothing important to say, etc., etc. And you copy people's videos, which is just pathetic because that's what every bloody channel does almost. Is copies. Yep. Everything you've got is copied from somewhere else. Something in your video will be copied from somewhere else. So, and then you watch video after video of people. Okay, maybe, and I do talk through my videos. I don't just. Occasionally, I'll just copy a video, but more than likely, I'll talk. But they did all that, but they didn't just do it for that reason. They're warning me all the time. Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Because obviously, look at it and go, look. She doesn't reckon. She reckons that Michael Fox is what's his name? Tom Cruise. They don't like seeing all that. But I can't help it if they're lying. Or why does everybody look alike? Why can't we find our true history? Why is it you find a bit and you think, well, how does that fit in with the history if that's that old? And but then you're finding when you're looking at things that Things are a lot older than they say they are.
Well, this is it. When you look at the 1800s and the amount of wars that were going on, the Napoleonic
How could
Wars,
they build
the
anything?
revolutions, the rebellions, you know, and all these buildings that were attributed to being built in the 1800s, where did they find the time to go to war or revolution or rebellion? Where did they find the time to build?
Yeah.
You know, when you've
So
got
the
so many
buildings
years
had
of
to
war.
be. See, they make a war because there's time, but we know the buildings were built before that. But they just mishmash. You know, we know cowboys and Indians are probably true, but 200 or 300 years before they said that they were.
Prior.
Yes. And they don't like at all explaining before 17. You know, when the corporation came, but they think Americans think it's independence. That Mexico owned a lot of America.
Yeah.
Or had it acquired a lot of America.
Beforehand.
And then don't forget, when they say it was the English, you've got French quarters. You've got different quarters in these places. So how could that be the English? But some reason, they said basically, it was. I saw it on a video. Basically, America was bankrupt. So people bought it. And that's how we got the corporation.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I mean, I watched a documentary about some of the restaurants in the west of America and how they've still got Tartarian menus. Now, that's telling you something, you know. From across the western coast, they've still got Tartarian menus, you know, which is a mix of more or less everything, you know, from German to Russian to, you know, it's a mix of everything.
Yeah, but I don't think in some places that is a problem, the Tartaria side of things. It's not a problem in other countries. It's only a problem, you know, like they propaganda it. You know, like us, they tell us how badly the Russians are treated and how badly they get treated, the people. But they've forgotten to tell you that they treat us worse.
Yeah. And why was Tartaria hushed over? You look in the dictionary and you'll find, pertaining to Tartaria.
Well, does it matter if it was Russia or somewhere else that had ruled us? It definitely happened because here are all the buildings. But what does it matter? It's not now. The Romans are back in charge again.
But they've definitely hidden it. That's the point. And what's being done today is the same thing. The hidden hand at work. Yeah, everything is being done by the hidden hand. It's like this ULEZ thing. Even though it was voted out, they brought it in. Geoengineering. Did anybody get the vote on their air being sprayed? You know,
we don't give them permission to do any of the things that they do. So the games are, say, tax, not getting petrol, all that kind of stuff. And they're doing all these things that we have not given them permission for.
Yep. Unelected, selected, you know, whatever these beings are, they're not doing it by law or by legality or by proper legislation. They're just enforcing it on us, you know.
Yeah, as I said, we're treated like we're the cows, the sheep and the pigs. But I've got to go now, Christian.
Okay then, well, I'll say goodbye for now then to everybody out there listening. You know, we do rant sometimes, but yeah, we try and cover the subject.
Because obviously you don't mind coming and helping me on my videos. You do a lot of research and put stuff on Facebook. If people want to find you on Facebook, your name's Christian
Kenneth. K-E-N-E-T-H.
Christian Kenneth, and you've got a son in the picture.
Yeah.
And if you can help Christian with the worm, he'd love it.
I know. Exactly.
Yeah. But just for this hangout, I'm going to say thank you very much, Christian. You know that we talk for hours anyway. And thank you everybody for listening. And hopefully this sort of sparks a few things in your brains if you have not understood this stuff at all before. Hopefully it's a bit more. We don't have the answers for everything, unfortunately.
Well, I'll take this opportunity and say goodbye then.
Thank you very much, Christian. Thank you, everybody.